This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Hi, welcome to The Clash. I'm Jeff Dixon. I'm joined by
Chris Whaley.
And we are here with what is a special for us here at The Clash. We're doing a special on Kamala Harris.
Right.
It's The Balance. We've done now a show called The Trump Files,
right.
And we're now doing a show called The Harris Files.
Right.
Because we're fair.
Right, absolutely.
We call balls and strikes.
Right.
We just stand to the plate and take swings. That's all we do, right?
The extra point is either good or it's not.
And so we're going to do the same, but looking at Kamala Harris, and we're going to break that down into the same areas that we did in the Trump files. So if you've seen that, then you're going to realize that this really is just a kind of apples to apples type of comparison. We're going to do our best to do that and see what we can do. Now, I mean, initial thoughts on this as we kind of get into the episode?
Well, just...
You a big Kamala Harris fan?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if anything had changed since we did the Trump files.
You know, just as we had the 4 years to see how Donald Trump would lead, we have now had almost 4 years to see how Biden and Harris, and Harris is a big part of it because she said that she was always the last one to leave the room.
Yeah,
right?
I had that in my notes. Yeah, she's always the last one in the room. So she's involved.
So,
in the decisions that are being made.
Right.
If you wear that badge with pride and you're going to be the last one in the room, you are responsible for what happens in that room, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I believe that's very fair.
As a leader, that's fair.
And again, I'm going to say, Jeff, I said this with the introduction to the Trump episode, and I'm going to say it here. I believe this is the most important election in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I really do. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I do. I think it is. I mean, and I know that sometimes they say that every time.
Yeah.
But I think we're kind of at a period in American history, world history, and even biblical history, if you will, where I think each as we move toward a season where we seem to be wrapping up a lot of prophecy and some things like that. This becomes very important.
Yeah.
And I think what we do as America matters, and so. I'm with you. I think it's an important election.
And there's so many items. Now, we're going to cover 7 things,
right,
like we did with Trump. We covered those 7 items. But there's so many crazy things that we could cover that we're not covering. I mean, for instance, she wants to get rid of red meat consumption.
Yeah.
I mean, I love steak.
Sure, I do too.
And, and why does she want to get rid of it, Jeff?
Why? She doesn't like Longhorn Steakhouse?
No.
They're not a sponsor, by the way, but they could be.
Yeah,
if they wanted
could
to be.
Yeah. No, I think it's got to do with the cows and the emissions that they put out.
Yeah. Cows have gas, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. I find it interesting as we open the Harris Files, though. Isn't it odd that she is the only presidential candidate in my lifetime, your lifetime, that has made it to the big dance and never gotten a vote?
Right.
I mean, she has never gotten a vote. She didn't win as a presidential candidate when she ran
in 2020.
Yeah, she hasn't gotten one vote in any primary. The only votes she's gotten were at the Democratic National Convention.
Right.
After the candidate who got all the votes stepped off the ballot
and gave it to her.
Yeah. So she actually is running for the highest office in the land, and she wants the keys to the Oval Office. But no one's ever voted for her. I just find that incredibly crazy to think that that's where we are in American history.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's a big deal when we open the files.
I think it's, if you're sitting out there and you've never gotten involved to vote in an election, you better get involved on this one. Because I don't think we're going to even scrape the surface of some of the things that would happen to our nation should this woman get elected.
Yeah. Now, again, if we open the files up, in fairness, we've got to go back. She was named while she was a senator as the most liberal of all the senators at the time, including Bernie Sanders, if I
Left
remember.
of Bernie.
Yeah.
Left of Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren.
So, well, that was, she was reading smoke signals, I guess. But that is her background as she has come in. You mentioned it. We kind of jumped on it a little bit. You know, she is owned. She is the last person in the room when decisions are made.
Right.
And so a lot of what we've gone through as a nation for the past 4 years, 3.5 years, really she is responsible for. I mean, or she becomes part of the primary reason for. So we're going to open the files up. We're going to look, we're going to break things down for you, and we're going to do so, and then we're going to get to the end, and we're going to just kind of make everybody mad. Or maybe be glad. We'll see how it all goes. We'll be right back after this break. In the Bible, the church is called the body of Christ. Hopefully, you have a place that you call home when it comes to church, and hopefully you attend there, and hopefully you find a connection with other people. But also, we live in a world where we are connected digitally, and online, you're more than welcome to come visit the church at 434. That's where Chris Whaley and I are part of that staff. The website, touchandchange.net, touchandchange.net. Use the QR code to get there. You'll find all sorts of resources that will help you in your journey of faith. We look forward to seeing you at the church at 434. Welcome back. We are cracking open, bum, bum, bum,
The Harris Files.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at Kamala Harris, and we'll look at 7 areas that she believes in. Before we crack it open, I want to make a couple of, just a thought before we kind of get into the first one.
Okay.
As we're recording this, we are going to be, our audience will see it fresh off the debate.
After the debate.
Right. Prior to that, though, she's done one interview.
One.
Since she has become the heir to the throne behind the Resolute desk.
Right.
She made a stunning statement, and I don't know if you picked this up in her interview. I mean, it was a little bit mind-numbing, but she made one statement when they were asking her about how she had changed her views on issues
I caught it.
that resonate. She made the statement, "My values haven't changed."
Right.
And I thought to myself when she said that, that was an incredibly dumb statement to make, because if you change your mind on an issue, that usually means the values have changed.
Right.
Case in point, President Trump, prior to his election as president, has spent a number of years being pro-choice.
Right.
But when it came time and he began running, he shared the story, and he shared about how he had learned and he had discovered some things, and the more that he knew and the more that he understood, it had changed his values and changed his heart, so he changed his stance.
Right.
I'm not convinced that you can change your stance without changing your values.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly.
I have trouble with that.
Yeah.
So when we tear this apart and we kind of tear these files open, we're going to share the information as it's out there and available. But as we talk about it, I mean, we're still entering a very dicey kind of area where we're being asked to believe that someone has changed a position without changing their values and what makes them tick.
Right. Good point to bring up.
Yeah. So
Let's get
in fairness, that's what we're looking at. Okay. All right. The first one, Chris, is Kamala Harris on the sanctity of life. Now, Kamala is a strong advocate for reproductive rights, according to what she says. She supports access to abortion. She opposes restriction, what she calls restriction on women's health care. She's pro-choice, and she is a strong vocal advocate for women having the right to make decisions for their own bodies. That's her official, as we can make it, stance.
Well, first of all, I think I speak for both of us. I know I do. We believe that abortion is the taking of an innocent life.
Yes.
As ministers of the gospel, I mean, God's going to hold us accountable if we don't do everything we can to help protect innocent life that cannot do anything other than depend upon those doing that very thing. You agree with that?
I do, yeah.
Well, I mean, everything you said, Kamala is for abortion. She is abortion on steroids. The Democratic National Convention, they were giving out free abortions, giving out free vasectomies. I found this interesting. In March, she made what was believed to be the first official visit to an abortion clinic by a president or vice president. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. She consistently supported abortion during her time in the Senate, including co-sponsoring legislation that would have banned common state-level restrictions, like requiring doctors to perform specific tests or have hospital admitting privileges in order to provide abortions. It is so off the wall against anything, I think, that a Christian could support.
And so again, track record, the past, the present, when it comes to sanctity of life, while she argues that she is pro-woman and pro-reproductive rights, that takes abortion from being a life and death issue to a reproductive right issue.
Right.
And so her argument or stance is not the issue. As a result, when you open up the files and you look at life from a Christian perspective, it's a pretty daunting look. And she doesn't. I don't see that she stands very strongly with that, and I don't think that that's going to change.
No.
But I don't think that her party wants it to change.
No.
Okay.
No. And her values haven't changed either.
No, I don't think her values have changed on that one. No. All right. That's the sanctity of life.
And just as I gave Trump a grade on the 7th.
Oh, we're grading. I didn't know. I forgot we're grading.
I'll give her a grade, and I'm giving her a big fat F.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what letters that spelled.
Yeah.
What that noise was. Okay.
Had to do that.
All right. Give her an F on that. All right. So Chris has given the official file grade right out of the chute. She gets an F.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Second file, the religious freedom file. Kamala Harris supports, she says, religious freedom, and in the same breath, the last statement that I read that she offered on religious freedom, she also said that it has to be balanced with other rights, particularly regarding non-discrimination.
I've got some of that stuff here.
So she's argued for separation of church and state. She opposes policies that use religious beliefs to justify discrimination. So she ties religious freedom into discrimination issues.
Right.
So when we're taking a look at that file of this thing called religious freedom, she doesn't seem to separate it from discrimination, which means, at least in my head, that then that religion always has a slant toward discriminating against someone.
Yeah, I take it that way, yeah.
So, I mean, and that's the conclusion from what her statements are. I don't agree with that. I don't
looking at what she would say.
What she would say. Okay.
Yeah. And I think for our audience, we need to say this. Now, most of you might know it, but there's some of you that may not know it. You will not find separation of church and state in the Constitution.
What? That's true.
You won't. It is not in there. No. I mean, it has to go back to the Danbury Baptist.
And that was the Jefferson letter, right?
Yeah, the Jefferson letter.
But it actually did the opposite of what we argue today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically telling the government to leave the Danbury Baptist alone.
Separation of church and state was not to keep the church out of the state. It was to keep the state out of the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good history.
Yeah.
Dude, I give you an A for history.
Vice President Harris once sponsored and supported legislation very harmful to religious liberty. As California senator in 2018, Harris introduced and was the lead sponsor of the Do No Harm Act. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard of that.
It's a bill aimed at gutting the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is RFRA, which was a landmark bipartisan 1993 law that remains one of the most important federal safeguards for religious Americans. Harris claimed that the bill was necessary in order to prevent people from using those protections as a license to discriminate.
Yeah. Again, so we're back to discrimination, right? So I mean, my take, if I was going to summarize it, and I'm going to take, let me try to take the highest road possible, because obviously
You always do.
I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as we look at this, we take the highest road possible, because we're trying to do that and we're trying to be fair. But what she is saying is she is for conditional religious freedom.
As long as it goes her way.
Yeah, or lines up with what she wants. Because again, by tying it constantly to discrimination, that whole idea presupposes that if you're coming from a religious position of faith, you're going to then discriminate against someone else. And I think that is an accurate stating of what her file would show.
All right. And don't just take our word for it. I got Ryan Anderson, president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center, said the Do No Harm Act threatened religious liberty, particularly in context of abortion, because it would withhold religious liberty protections against abortion mandates. The reality, I just want to finish this, the reality is that most of the current threats to religious liberty concern rights of conscience on the matters that would be specifically exempted by the Do No Harm Act. And this bill targets countless faithful Christians and adherents of other faiths. That's just a quote from somebody that's probably a lot more liberal than we are, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to get that out there.
Well, so as our audience takes that quote and kind of takes, what you just shared, I just want to know, I'm taking your word for it. I mean, I
got it off the internet.
Yeah, that's right. It's got to be true. It came off the internet. So we'll do that. Now, let's. So, are you going to grade that? Are you going to grade that file?
Yeah, I gave her an F.
You gave her an F. Okay, but no sound effects, just an F.
Yeah, I just gave her an F.
Okay, just an F. So she's got 2 Fs and
So
2
far.
files. Well, at least you know what? If you're grading on a curve, she's consistent.
That's exactly right. I never even thought that.
Yeah. So I mean,
she's consistently an F. Yeah.
Okay. So far.
So far.
But there's always room.
There's always room for improvement.
And
confidence is not high, though.
right, and we still have more of this special to go.
Okay.
So
All right.
All right. Let's look at the third.
Family values.
This would be family values. Yeah. But, if I were to summarize her family values based on official platform or statements she's made, she supports policies that aim to strengthen families through economic and social support. Okay, so she is often gauges her conversations about supporting families with economic relief and social service support. In other words, where the government will provide the things that you will need to make families stronger. Okay, she advocates for paid family leave, affordable child care. She's an advocate for equal pay, and again, puts a lot of emphasis on creating programs or supporting programs that enable families to survive. That's a very big word, okay? But that is where we've kind of run to the end of the family value conversation when it comes to policy. So I didn't get into any kind of gender, sexuality, any kind of marriage ideas or anything like that. Strictly on for those items, that's where you crack the file open, and that's what she says.
All right. Well, I shared when we did the Trump files about putting in a search engine, Trump and family values, and I shared that the only thing that came up was all negative, slanted, anti-Trump articles. So, being fair, Jeff,
Okay.
I did the same thing with Kamala.
I expected nothing less.
When I did the same thing for Kamala, Jeff, can you believe that all positive stories came up about Kamala and family values?
Really?
Amazing.
How could that happen?
Well, because we have a slanted, biased, liberal media. That's the reason why.
Okay. Well, at least we know.
We know she is very, very pro LGBTQ, very pro same-sex marriage, and we know a lot of stuff about her that people don't even want to talk about, a la Willie Brown. So, you know what grade I'm going to give her on this, but
before we give her a grade, though.
No, I didn't. You already know the grade I'm going to give her.
We don't want to. We want to surprise people.
Okay.
We don't want to let that out too early. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, she might get it. She might surprise us with a B, or a C.
No.
Or a D.
No.
Okay. I just want.
Not gonna happen.
I think also in her family values, though, because a lot of her family values are driven by social programming. Okay. And
That we pay for.
well, again, the American taxpayer does pay for this.
Yeah.
So, but she has a view that is alarming to me because it's almost like a socialist overthrow of the American healthcare system. In other words, she supports abolishing private insurance.
Right.
Officially, she does.
Right.
And she even co-sponsored Bernie Sanders' $32 trillion socialist health care bill. Now, that's part of her record. That's part of who she is. Again, she may have changed her values since then.
Yeah.
But she hasn't changed that belief, best we can tell.
Right.
The other thing is that she has a record of saying that she wants to give Social Security and Medicare to illegal aliens and immigrants here in the country. It's a belief that an illegal alien needs to receive taxpayer funds and benefits. And,
Jeff, that's going to bankrupt our nation.
well, it will start by bankrupting probably, that some statistics say 50% of the hospitals in America.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yes, and then the ripple effect, I agree. I mean, and that kind of cost, that outlay, certainly can bankrupt our nation.
Yeah. But how stupid is that to give benefits to people who came to our nation illegally? And she doesn't, that's another thing. She doesn't want to say the word illegal aliens. She don't want to say that. And she doesn't want to say Islamic terrorists. She doesn't want to use that one.
No.
But, I mean...
The way we say things matters.
Yeah. But to give that to people who came into our nation illegally and who have not put money into it. I've been putting money into it, Jeff, since, I started working when I was 8 years old and started probably paying taxes when I was 13 because I had almost a full-time job. So I've been putting in for a lot of years, and these people just walk across the border and get the benefits that I worked for and you worked for your whole life. Yeah. How fair is that?
It's not. I mean, I remember when I started work, I was going uphill in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
Both ways.
In Florida?
Yeah, in Florida. As a Florida boy, I was climbing Mountain Door to go to work every day.
Yeah, there you go.
And climb it again at the end of the day. Come back out. But isn't it easy to give away something that you haven't earned?
Right.
Right? I mean, if you want me to, I could give away all your stuff, and you can give away all my stuff. But again, you have no ownership of it, right? So I mean, it's easy, and I think that sometimes we forget that. I mean, I think that sometimes even because we hear news cycles and stuff, we forget that that's exactly what we're talking about doing. We're giving something to someone that they have no ownership in.
Right.
I mean, in a spiritual sense, I mean, God does that for us. But on the flip side of that, when it comes to politics and governments and stuff like that, that's not how it's designed to work.
No.
And I think that sometimes we've lost sight of that because we just think, well, we just need to be nice and help. But the cost of that is huge.
It's very, very big.
So if you're going to grade it, I mean, and again, I'm seeing we're going to break the curve here. What grade do you give her?
F.
Oh man, it's just we're stuck right there.
Yeah, but she is batting 1,000.
That's true. No, she is extremely consistent. I think we're on one of the mark here. So I mean, I think that's good. All right. Well,
how about education?
Let's go to education. She is, according to her statements, her platform, if you will, her belief system, whatever. She is a proponent of public education reform.
Yeah.
She advocates for increased teacher pay. She wants to reduce student debt, which is always fun, and wants improved access to affordable higher education. She also is a strong proponent of expanding, not just supporting, but expanding early childhood education and making state college tuition almost free for most students. So based on, if you're just reading her platform, all of that sounds great. So you're going to give her an A, right?
No.
No. Is there more to the story than that?
As you did. I have 2 daughters. Okay. Both of those daughters went to college. One went to UCF, which is a state college. One went to a private Christian college in South Florida. We're very thankful. Our girls are very smart and got some scholarships, but not a lot.
Take after the mom.
Yeah, they did. But we had to pay for it.
Sure, of course you did. Yes.
We had to pay for their college, and rightly so. No, I never thought I wanted them to get all the scholarships they could.
No doubt.
And by the way, I'll just say that I told my girls, I said, you study hard, you graduate as a valedictorian, you can have a free ride, you can go to anywhere you want to. I was telling them all this stuff, and so my first daughter graduated valedictorian. We were there on awards night. I was just pumped, chest way out. And they gave all the scholarships to, it wasn't to the brightest kids. It was had to do with, race and ethnicity and stuff like that, which really just, knocked me over. And then the second one, she graduates valedictorian, same thing. She got less scholarship than her sister did.
Wow.
Graduated number 1.
Wow.
So it doesn't matter anymore, I guess. But I know that their efforts to forgive student loans failed with the Supreme Court, did it not?
It did, yes.
So how did they react to that?
Well, they found a workaround. They came at it from another direction.
Right.
And did it really as an executive order.
It was right, like doing this to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're going to do what we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, she would have been the last one in the room when that decision was made, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I don't know. Well, you think we need to go to a break and finish this one up?
I got a couple of things I want to throw into the education hopper.
Okay.
But, let's get everybody a chance to catch their breath.
Okay.
Because, again,
I know they're sitting out going,
I'm seeing a bad trend here with your grading system, and I'm kind of scaring me a little bit. So
and since this one is, education, I mean, if she gets an F in this one.
This is bad.
It's really bad.
All right. So we'll see how bad it might be.
Okay.
Right after this break.
Hey, thanks for watching The Clash. And Jeff, the holidays aren't too far away. You do know that, right?
I've heard that, yeah.
And you're not one of those people that waits till the last minute, are you?
No, I'm ahead of the game.
You're ahead of the game?
Yeah.
And I bet you our audience is ahead of the game. And I know that I don't want to buy junk. I want to buy something good, something that's entertaining, something that will keep my attention. I mean, just something that's pretty good. And would you know about anything?
I do. I'm aware of a cornucopia of gifts that are available for our audience to pick up. That's why I use the word cornucopia.
I love that word. Yeah.
And I would suggest that they visit DixonOnDisney.com. That's a great place to start. And from there, you get sent to all sorts of different places. But, it's funny you mentioned that. I've written 5 novels.
You got a new one coming out, don't you?
Got one coming out in January, as a matter of fact. That would be number 6, called Saving the Magic Kingdom. You can pre-order it now, and if you pre-order it now, it's actually cheaper, and that helps get the distribution out in some of the stores that are out there.
Awesome.
I have 2 nonfiction Disney books that are out there. I have a novella that's out there, and according to the rumor mill, there is another Christmas novella that will be released at Thanksgiving.
How awesome is that?
Another Christmas story. Now, a novella is a book that wants to be a novel when it grows up.
Yeah.
But it's a lot shorter because it doesn't take as long to write. All that's out there. All that's available. Again, as I said, a cornucopia DixonOnDisney.com. Love for you to come, love for you to shop, tell your family, tell your friends, and buy gifts for those people that you really love. Because if you really love them, you'll buy from that website. And if you don't love them, well, you won't. Welcome back. This is the Harris Files, our special. We're exhausting ourselves plowing through these files. We are doing research for you. And right now, we're still talking about education. We haven't graded that. You okay?
Yeah.
Good? Okay. All right. But as we're talking about education, again, we're trying to look at what she's done in the education realm and what we know about her. Again, understanding her values have changed.
Right.
But what does the record show? What do the files reveal, Chris?
Right.
What do we got?
Well, I got this. The Biden-Harris administration has forgiven $168.5 billion in federal student loans since taking office in January of 2021. Now,
That's a lot of money.
There's a lot of people out there that are doing the high fives and the tip and the tap and clapping their hands and going yahoo and all. But wait a minute. Nothing is free, Jeff.
No.
Somebody's got to pay for it. Who ends up paying for it?
You.
The taxpayers.
Oh, and me too then. Yeah, sure. Okay,
All
okay.
of us.
I was going to vote for you.
That $168.5 billion was not free.
No.
No, it's covered by the taxpayers. Sure. And, we're already borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. So it's not a good idea.
Well, you talk about education, right? A lot of people get to a point in life and they don't understand that the federal government doesn't do anything to make money.
No.
We just spend money.
Right.
And so that money has to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, from us.
Yeah, it comes from taxpayers. Okay.
Right.
And the education end, I am interested in her stance on school vouchers because she has been against them, which means that the taxpayer money doesn't go with the child from place to place. Instead, she doesn't want that kind of control to happen. She wants the government to have control of that. She also, in the school environment, wants to protect the school from contacting parents in the case of a child who comes through the school system that wants to change pronouns, going through a gender crisis, if you will. She wants to give the schools the protection and the shade, not to have to contact the parents when that is happening, especially at the elementary school level. And she's not really an advocate of state right education as much as she is. She wants that national, that national tent over standards, curriculum, and what needs to be taught. All of that is a bit troubling to me.
Very troubling.
I have had some experience in the school sector, working with public schools, with private schools as well, and kind of navigating the education system. I mean, that is problematic,
Very.
I think.
And it's not just Harris, Jeff, because she has a vice presidential candidate that's tied to the hip to her, Walz. And, some of the stuff that he did in Minnesota, it's dumbfounding. About giving, children sex change without their parents' knowledge and stuff like that. He's tied to the hip, so he's obviously an influence on her, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, and doesn't that in some ways make then education really a morality issue for them?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
So as a follower, that creates in me an area of concern. Simply because this is this is our children we're talking about here. This is a generation that's coming up, and this is the influence that those policies would have on them.
Right.
Well, are you ready to grade her on this one? On the education. This is education, so this grade should be good, right?
I gave her an F.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in review, we're F's across the board here.
Absolutely.
Man, you're a tough grader.
Yeah, I am. And I know, Jeff, I know that there's somebody sitting out there watching us just livid at listening to me. Not you, because they like you.
Yeah, well, I'm likable.
But they're livid at me, and they're just saying all kinds of stuff, but Jeff, I'm sorry, I just really don't care that they do that. And how can a Christian take Jesus into the voting booth on just these issues we've looked at here and be in favor of this stuff? How can a Christian do that?
I wish I had an answer for you.
Okay.
But I don't.
Right.
But I do want to give our audience a chance. If they want to yell at someone,
Oh, yeah.
yell right now at the screen and yell at Chris. We'll wait. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's go to the next file.
Okay.
How about the area of social justice? If now again, social justice is really in some ways the center plank of the Kamala Harris platform. She advocates for racial equity, criminal justice reform, LGBTQ plus rights, and immigrant protections. The policies that she has espoused in the past, and also is attempting to verbalize in some ways now in some of her stump speeches, addresses what she calls, these are her words, systemic inequalities, and she wants to promote fairness for marginalized communities. Now that sounds good, doesn't it?
No.
Why?
Jeff, you haven't even touched the surface of all of this stuff that she's for. And again, remember, she's tied to the hip to Walz also, who allowed Minnesota to burn. I mean,
he did.
To burn a police station, Jeff.
He burned down a police station.
Yeah. And his wife, didn't she say she opened the window so she could smell the tires?
Yeah,
burning?
and also during the lockdowns, didn't he shoot at residents that came outside on their porch?
I don't know.
I saw the videotape for that.
Did you really?
Yes. They were filming it with their camera, and they got shot by the National Guard coming down the street, or the police department, I guess, local police department coming down the street on his orders.
Yeah, and look at the stuff that went on there, with you remember the George Floyd stuff and all, but all these people that were rioting and doing bad stuff that were arrested, Kamala helped raise $40 million to bail those people out.
Wow.
And I mean, it was horrible what some of them did after she bailed them out. There were even some murders that took place. But I don't know, it's just amazing to me, the stuff that she's for when it comes to, I mean, she's for reparations too, Jeff.
Yes, I've heard that.
I mean, I saw the video on that one where somebody asked her, would she be in favor of that? And she gave the thumbs up, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, why should we have to pay for something that our forefathers did 200 years ago?
Right.
We're not guilty of that. They were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, I think problematically with her social justice stance is this concept that she's built it around, apparently, on this systemic inequality that drives the agenda. Because systemic inequality means that at the heart of every system that we're using to govern this nation or the decision-making process, there is built into it a systemic driver that is on purpose trying to hold someone back, to keep them from experiencing the freedom that they need. And so there's always a victim because there's a systemic inequality to the system. And so her appeal is to those that feel like that they have been left out, abused by, left behind, somehow not able to keep up with the system. So she spends a lot of time trying to advocate and cater messages to ignite interest among those groups, because that is a voting bloc. But by the same token, she never really talks about what exactly about the system is setting up this inequality that she's talking about. I mean, it's one thing to play to an emotion, but systemically, is the U.S. Constitution racist? Systemically, is there a problem with the judicial system? Because that simply means at the heart of everything that's going on, every structure, every entity that we have, there is an element of cooked into the mix, something that's designed to keep people from experiencing the same freedom as another group.
Right.
And I don't think you can prove that. I mean, there certainly are examples and moments where things have not gone well or bad decisions have been made, but that doesn't make the system broken. I don't think.
Well, Jeff, over the last, there was 8, 12, so over the last 16 years, her party has been in office 12 of those. And yet, the world is terrible and we need to do all this stuff, and yet they've been in charge for 12 of those 16 years.
Yeah.
So doesn't that raise your alert level up a little bit that something doesn't smell right?
It does, and I'm also questioning a little bit of commitment to social justice when, even now as we're recording this, we can tap into any news feed and discover that on American university campuses right now, we have a Jewish population that is really being threatened and harassed and really endangered. That there's no word about speaking out against it other than the fact that it's wrong, but no stance of why it's wrong or what what the real issue is here.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a selective inequality that she seems to be able to embrace so much quicker than I would think any of us could.
I'm going to let you give her the grade. Yeah.
Oh man, I hate to do that because that puts me on the line. But I'll give her an F.
Okay.
Just because I agree. I agree, and I think she flunks at this one.
Well, we got the economy.
Yes.
6.
What do you think about her?
Well, we've got almost 4 years of seeing how she would handle the economy. Okay. I know Joe's been in there, but she's the last person in the room.
Well, she is, and while we call it Bidenomics,
right?
But I guess we call it, Harris. What would we call it? Give me the name.
Harrynomics?
Harrynomics? Well, yeah, it's that opportunity economy she's talking about, I guess, or whatever the phrase is.
Tax the rich,
yes.
Make them pay their fair share. Jeff, have you ever looked at the scale of the people that pay taxes? Yeah, the top 1% pays the biggest portion of the pie. Yeah. And yet the Democrats always say, we want to make sure they pay their fair share. They're paying more than their fair share. Yeah. I mean, our part, we're in that group there, but people that don't make a lot of money don't pay taxes.
Don't pay taxes,
yeah. So I don't like that.
Well, of course, we're going through an economy right now where I think everything costs a lot more. Inflation, we're battling
everything.
That. She was the deciding and the proudly deciding vote on this, what was it, $1.9 trillion stimulus that came through.
Yeah, that sent us into inflation.
Yeah, I mean, and now, and of course, I thought it was interesting on the campaign trail, one of the few things that you have heard her say that you scratch your head that hasn't really been unpacked yet by her. Others are trying to help unpack it for her. But I mean, almost a Soviet Union style price setting on some things that really is undercuts.
What'd she call it? Price gauging?
Yeah, it's called price gauging, but I think she meant gouging.
Yeah.
But I think she read the teleprompter wrong.
Yeah.
But gauging, gouging, you get the idea, right? We're gauging, we're gouging.
She had a Biden moment.
She did. And yes, there's a few of those. But I mean, she really has this Bidenomics thing with a little bit of a communist twist to it, which is, well, I mean, it ought to scare the bejeebers out of some people.
Yep. Wages are down. Unemployment has gone up. Prices obviously have gone up. Manufacturing is leaving our country because of the regulations. Jeff, I don't think there's going to be an end to it until there's a change in our country.
Well, she also was involved in this Inflation Reduction Act too.
Yeah.
And was the deciding vote for that as well, which really sent us into a spiral when it came to inflation.
And wasn't she the deciding vote on the Green New Deal too?
She was indeed. I was about to throw that one out because that's a biggie. That's a $93 trillion ticket on the Green New Deal, which conservative estimates say would kill 2 million jobs and cost your family and my family $165,000 a year to cover the cost of paying for the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get one more in
How
here.
about justice, security, and public safety?
Oh my gosh. Well, she is a former prosecutor.
Yeah.
And she is running almost as I'm a justice candidate. I'm a tough prosecutor, and that's who I am. Because she's even thrown at Trump. He's a convicted felon. She's not. But what is her track record to this point? She's changed her values. But what's the track record show?
Open borders. Estimates go all the way from 12 to 20 million illegal aliens that have crossed our border. A lot of them bad people.
Sure.
I agree with Trump. If I was a country and I got a jail full of bad people, hey, take them over and let them go in America. Clean our jails out, save them money. Look at crime in Venezuela has gone down since all the criminals have come to the USA. Just saw in the news last week, saw stuff about it this week also, the Venezuelan gang taking over housing projects. 75% of all crime in New York City is by illegal aliens, and Jeff, we can go on, but I'll let you give the grade on this one too.
Well, also, let's not forget though, she was an advocate of defunding the police.
Defunding, right.
And then also, I love this, reimagining ICE and reimagining law enforcement. Now again, there's a lot of things we can do to always improve, no doubt about it.
Right.
But a reimagining basically is, at least in my head, is you're taking what is and you're spinning it upside down and imagining something radically different when you're done. And at the end of the day, that hasn't worked anywhere that's been experimented with.
And I think all of this stuff that we've looked at has clashed into our Christian worldview.
There ought to be a show like that.
And when we come back after this break, Jeff is going to share something that's going to absolutely upset some people out there. And we'll wait for that when we get back.
Yeah, I can't wait. Hi, I want to tell you about a website that you may have never been to, but you need to visit. It's called facethefearhouse.com. Facethefearhouse.com. Once you get there, you find out about an event that takes place every year here in the Central Florida area called Face the Fear. Now, for some people, you'll look at it and go, oh, it's just a haunted house or it's just a scare event. It's far more than that. It actually is an event where you come and sure, you'll get scared. But the big part of the event is that you'll discover some ways, practical ways, to deal with the fear that you might be facing in your life, whatever it is. We'd love for you to come and join us, see some of the resources that are there on the website. And then if you're in the area, make plans to attend the event. All the details are there. It's facethefearhouse.com, facethefearhouse.com, and the event is called Face the Fear. I look forward to seeing you there. Welcome back. Chris, we didn't grade last session.
Yeah, we didn't give her a grade. We gave her an F. Okay, go ahead.
Well, there you go. Consistency.
Yep.
So we can honestly say if you're looking for the consistency candidate, at least from the Clash perspective, Kamala Harris is your vote.
Consistently bad.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want to start to wrap this up. I want to start landing this episode because someone has asked us, why we seem to be supporting Trump. And I just want on record, Chris is supporting Trump. My answer is there's a lot of things I don't like about Trump.
Okay. Well, why don't you share that? This is for both of us.
Yeah, it is. This is for both of us.
Both of us.
But I think it's fair to say that this election is not about choosing the most likable person. I think if you haven't heard it yet, in these episodes, you're discovering that we are choosing between two vastly different ideologies. We're voting for the country that we want our children and we want our grandchildren to have one day. As a follower of Jesus, I take Jesus into the voting booth with me, but I'm not called to play checkers. I'm called to play chess. And my vote is a move on a chessboard that helps create the culture that we believe best honors our Savior. So in this election cycle, Trump represents a future that has been proven by his leadership, and we are confident that he can deliver on some of the things that he is saying he can deliver on. He's a patriot. He served this country for 4 years without taking a paycheck. He is a disruptive force in the American political system. He has had a political system that has turned on him and attacked him. He has survived an assassination attempt, and he has continued to stand strong. We use the phrase grazed and unfazed, and that's who he is. As a follower of Jesus, we see the importance of disrupting the political elite and the entitled ruling class. If you go back and take a close look in Scripture, that's what Jesus often did to political leaders and religious leaders. And so if you're honest as a follower, you have to admit, as we do, that you are looking at a political system that needs to be shaken up, not just simply stirred or sloshed about to keep the same old patterns. America is not mentioned in the future of history according to the biblical narrative. Yet America has been chosen by God to rise to a seat of eminent power for peace in the world. And God has chosen to bless America through the years, through our history, and use this nation as a force of change in the world around us. And so when I step into the voting booth, I step in with all of that in my mind and heart. And that means that every decision that I make is not made because I love a candidate. It's not made because I hate a candidate. It's not a Valentine. It is simply a vote that moves us forward into the world that I believe that most of us as followers pray for. You know the prayer, my kingdom come, that will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We pray, we want the kingdom to happen on earth as it is in heaven. So what moves do we need to make that move us in that direction? The moment when someone says, I can't believe you're voting for Trump, I reply, I'm not voting for Trump. Instead, yeah, you are, and that's good. I'm not voting for Trump, though. I'm voting for the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and I think you are too. We're voting for the right to speak our opinions and not be censored. Even in this show, we've been able to do that. We're voting for secure borders, and we're voting for legal immigration. We're voting for election integrity and mandatory voter ID. I mean, who would be against that? We believe that every U.S. citizen has the right to vote. And we also believe that if you're not a U.S. citizen, the right to vote in an American election is not yours to take. We're voting for the Second Amendment and the right to defend our life and our families' lives. We're voting for the police to be respected once again. We're voting for law and order, to put an end to allowing protesters to trespass and burn down cities. We're voting for law and order that will destroy innocent mom and pop small businesses and force people out of business simply because they're in the wrong place, in the wrong city, at the wrong time. We're voting for personal responsibility and the end of the revolving door where criminals are put right back out on the streets with not even a slap on the hands. We're voting for the next Supreme Court justices. We're voting for justices who will embrace the Constitution, protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We're voting for a return of our troops from foreign countries and an end to America's involvement in foreign conflicts that we don't need to be involved in. I want a strong America defense. You want a strong America defense that will protect America, but yet not fall into the category of having to be the world police. We're voting for the electoral college, and we're voting for the republic in which we live. The founders, we believe, were brilliant, and we believe that in that special moment that they had in history, that they were God ordained to do and create what they did to create it. The evidence of this, the proof of that, lies in the fact that others want to change it when it doesn't work out their way. And they want to kick to the curb the system that has got us to where we are in our history. We're voting for the continued appointment of federal judges who respect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We're voting for keeping jobs in America and not exporting them to other countries, to China, Mexico, and other places. We're voting to get rid of some of the freebies that we're giving away to people who are here illegally and not looking after the needs of American citizens and using the same resources to take care of our veterans here in the United States. We're voting for a strong military. We're voting for strong support for our vets in this country. We're voting in the voting booth to keep men out of women's sports. We're voting for the defense of Israel as a nation in a world of tyranny. And that's a biblical vote because the Bible clearly says that those who bless Israel will be blessed. We're voting against human and child trafficking. We're voting to end the endless stream of drugs that are just flying across the American border, killing Americans as there seems to be no restraint on what's coming in and out. We're voting to protect the rights of unborn children because they have no voice and they have no value to some in a world where children and pregnancies are viewed as a contraception issue and a nuisance instead of life. So in other words, we're voting for life itself. We're voting for our environment. We want to use this planet that God has placed us on wisely without worshiping the planet. We'll worship the creator of the planet, not the planet. That means that we're not wasting time and money and energy and resources on junk science driven by agendas that don't line up with the truth of God's word. We're voting for freedom of religion. We don't need leaders who are religious. We don't even need them to be Christians. What we need them to be is people who will respect and honor the law and give people the freedom as followers to live the life that Jesus created them to live. We're voting for the return of teaching of math, history, and science instead of the indoctrination and grooming of children in our school system. We're not just voting for one person. We're voting for the future of America. We're voting for our grandchildren. We're voting for our children to have freedoms and continue to enjoy them. And America is the greatest country in the world. We're able to do this show in America and say the things that we've been saying. That's why everybody wants to immigrate here. So why in the world does someone want to change and reshape and reform the American experience? Why do politicians want to enact policies that have failed in other countries historically and are failing today across the world? Why is it acceptable for us to have politicians that lie to us and that simply be okay? Why do we accept the fact that there are media outlets that simply tell lies and repeat lies even though they've been proven to be false? And there's no accountability for that. See, that's what we've been talking about in the Trump files and the Harris files. We're not voting for Trump. We're voting for America. And we're voting for the freedoms that we hold dear. That's why we at The Clash have been doing this over the last couple of episodes and trying to share with you the importance of this election.
Jeff, I couldn't have said it any better, and I'm glad that you spoke for both of us on some words that I really hope and pray that people take to heart, because everything that you brought up in that closing are things that other people need to be thinking about when they go into the booth. And so if they have a problem, with a guy that gives mean tweets, maybe they can look at it from a different perspective. And we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Clash. But remember, don't tap out.